Computerized Start is brought to you by my awesome patrons on Patreon, and by your tips and memberships on Ko-fi. These and other channel supporters make my live streams possible. You too can become a channel supporter with tiers starting at just $1. And as always, thank you for all your support, including sharing, chatting, liking, and subscribing. Now roll that famous logo animation! Good evening, and welcome back to Computerized Start Live. I am your host, Justin D. Morgan, and it appears as if I clicked on mute on something that I didn't mean to mute, so hopefully I figure out what that was. Hopefully you can hear me. OBS is not telling me I'm muted. But anyways, let's see who we have in the chat. We have Thomas Armstrong. Yeep. We have Dave's Vintage Apple Tech. Hi, Dave. We have Francois. Hi, Francois. We have Got Bum. Hi, Jason. Jason is here for the spreadsheets. Means I'm going to have to create a spreadsheet for tonight. We have SadMac356. Hi, SadMac. We have I8386SX. Hi, Justin, asking if I'm on Lombardi time tonight. Well, I guess I am. We have Retro Techie, recognizes that famous logo animation. Hi, Retro Techie. Alright, so I didn't accidentally mute myself. Well, we got the Trident Fund. Link is in the description, and I might have already bought a Trident card since last live stream, but of course, that would mean it hasn't had time to arrive yet. And I might have done it against my better judgment. Also, speaking of things I might have done against my better judgment.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for our favorite segment, Wheel of Regrets. Here's your host, Justin D. Morgan.
Hey, who comes up with these titles anyway?
Yes, and to answer your question, Retro Techie, maybe I am. Let's see here. Gutbum says, in all seriousness, my favorite all-time Justin stream was part 1 of this first PC rebuild. Yes, hopefully we will get to the rebuild. And to help us tonight, we have this box, which needs opening instructions. Anyways, this box comes to us all the way from Athens. No, not Athens, Georgia. No, certainly not the Athens where my alma mater is located. I'm sure there's probably an Athens in Canada somewhere. Nope, not that Athens. Keep guessing. Athens, Greece! Yes! Probably against my better judgment. I bought this item from Athens, Greece. Now you probably know exactly why it's, like, covered in tape. It's also upside down so that you don't see the shipping label. Retro Techie's guessing Athens, France. Well, if there's an Athens, France, no. Further than that. We are... I don't know how you're supposed to open this box. I literally think there's, like... Actually, something tells me this is a motherboard box. So let me see if I can't maybe separate the address label from the tape. I would have used gaffer's tape to cover it, but there's just two problems with that. One, they used an entire 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper for the address label. And two, I'm almost out of gaffer's tape, and I won't get it until my subscribe and save order comes. Oh, there we go. Yay! I was able to extract the shipping label from the box. Alright. Now we are looking at the top side of the box, and it actually feels like if I cut here. Well, I might have gotten fooled. Well, no. No, that doesn't appear to be right. It's the box made of tape. There is so much of it. I am beginning to wonder if there's even a cardboard box under here, because all I see is tape. Oh, here we go. Maybe if I lightly score the tape, then maybe I might find cardboard underneath. Oh! And maybe, just maybe, I might find a box flap underneath. Excellent! Alright! Alright, and here we go. We have... Okay. I have to say, the packing job so far is reasonable. Alright, I have fancy imported bubble wrap for shipping something else. I saved everyone from guessing what it was because, sadly, there's no Trident card in my first PC because there was never a Trident card in my first PC. So it looks like it arrived safely. And, oh, very nice. We have a motherboard. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, now, Justin, I sure thought you had a motherboard for the computer. Well, I do. But there's a weird problem with the motherboard. And now, mind you, the computer shop I worked at sold this motherboard, and like more than one of them. So, I'm pretty sure I would remember something as significant as the motherboard won't let you configure an Intel processor. I'm pretty sure I would have remembered that, as many as we sold. But the one I bought, the first one I bought of these on eBay for the rebuild project, it will lock up instead of saving BIOS settings if you try to configure an Intel processor. So, therefore, knowing that didn't seem right, and not knowing what could cause a problem like that, I was just kind of periodically looking for another one of these motherboards. Because when you're doing a rebuild and you're trying to be faithful to the rebuild, well, that means I'm looking for exact parts, and, well, new ones of these weren't showing up very often. So, it's like, okay, maybe I'll just buy another board with the same chipset so that I can do some, how did I do building my first motherboard in an eventual video. So that's why I had this motherboard. You might recognize it. This is the one I was using Thursday for testing. This is the board I bought with the same chipset so that I could at least compare performance of if I had been able to, like if I'd tried to upgrade it after building it. Because this board will actually work with a Pentium, Intel Pentium. But I knew that wasn't right. So anyways, Retro Techie says, just use DOSBox, no need to rebuild anything. Ah, that's no fun, Retro Techie. The fun's in the rebuild. And then the enjoyment. I mean, to each their own. I realize some people will just emulate it in DOSBox to remember their memories, but it seems like all the YouTubers, they like try to find their first computer. And I'm still trying to find some of the computers that would be my first, or the like first ones we had for family computers, or some of the first. But it was like, when my first PC was one I built, I custom built it from parts. In order to have it, I had to rebuild it. So, hence this project. But anyways, I finally happened to find, like, and I've been watching this auction for a couple months. But anyways, I finally found this auction listing for this board. It was in Athens, Greece, so I wasn't like horribly excited to buy it right away because it was going to take a while to get here. I'd have to pay international shipping. It's kind of more than I wanted to spend since I'd already bought one motherboard. I ideally wanted to spend as little as possible, but I kept searching and searching periodically for this board. None were showing up. This one was still listed. And the thing that I kept coming back to was this seller showed this board working with a Pentium processor. So I finally said, all right, I'm just going to buy the board. I want to get my first rebuild working the way I remember it. I'll buy another board and we'll gamble it. And I wasn't quite sure from the auction listing if the RAM and the processor were included. I'm going back to the auction listing because for some reason I distinctly remember thinking and expecting that there is a chance the only thing I'm going to get is the motherboard. Because the auction listing didn't say the RAM picture is included to my remembrance. It just said it was working. Oh, okay. I guess the auction description did say Pentium 133 plus 64 megabytes working. Okay. I guess it did say. But still, I was kind of, for some reason, not totally sure. But anyways. Good night, Retro Techie. We'll catch you later. Gutbomb got his first computer on Sunday, getting the VIC-20 that Ryan gave to Tom to give to me at VCF. Cool. Thomas Armstrong grew up with DOS 1.0 on a 5150. Nice. So, Retro Techie says, I grew up with DOSBox at 15 years old. I should have known, Retro Techie. Well, then, grow up with that DOSBox. Anyways, we got to test this board before I'm going to even bother pulling the motherboard out of my rebuild. Because if this board didn't make it through shipping, well, that's going to be an eBay regret. So, we're going to test this motherboard. So, I'm obviously going to put a heatsink on the processor. So, I'm going to test it as it arrived with the Pentium processor. It should be a Pentium 133. We will test it as shipped. And then if that works, I will pull the AMD processor out of my rebuild. And we'll make sure that this board doesn't have some weird issue. And then we'll actually put it in the build. So I'm just going to use a known working ATI Mach 64 video card. But I'm going to use the RAM and CPU, the seller included. And we're going to see if it works. All right, there we go. I have power to the smart outlet. And 3, 2, 1. And we got fans. We don't have smoke. We've got post. Oh, and we've got a CPU configured. So it looks like it's still configured from the seller. Cool. All right. And I think we're booting from my, or should be booting from my. Well, I thought we'd be booting from my compact flash card. Well, let's try that again. Thomas Armstrong says everyone has to try CPM on 8-inch discs. Capom says, I'll pass. I don't have anything that can boot 8-inch discs. Okay, so I am going to load setup defaults. We're going to go to that CPU type 133. That's correct. That is a single voltage CPU. It is not October 4th. And let's see, it is. Okay. BIOS features. Enabled boot sequence. Yeah, that looks fine. I did have that enabled back in the day. Okay, chipset features. Auto configuration enabled, I believe, is okay. I suspect I left all those at default settings, so we will leave that alone. Let me reset the plug and play data. And pretty sure I would. That's how I had it set. Right, I think that's fine. You know, one thing I didn't see was where was the plug and play OS installed? I don't see it. All right, save and exit setup. All right, we will do this real quick. Ah, there we go. It's much happier after checking the CMOS settings. Gupom says I have an A2 Pico now, though, and I can emulate a Z80 card for my 2GS. Neat. Gupom says that's a lot of RAM for a 133. Yes, it is. I won't be leaving this RAM in it. I may leave part of it in it. I'll have to take a look and see what the modules are compared to what I have in my rebuild. I think I made the executive decision to leave 32 megabytes in it because that's what came with the first board I bought. So these memory modules, if they're good, are just going to go into my stash of RAM, as well as this processor. But let's see if it works, because after all, this is partially Wheel of Regrets, and what's better for regret than fancy bad RAM because it came from overseas? Oh wait, it all comes from overseas. Never mind! Also, I'm surprised no one has yet to notice a slight change I might have made to my streaming setup. I was not going to mention anything right away because I didn't want to give away what it was, but curious to see if anyone has an inkling of what I might have changed. Jesse says, I have a 136 megabytes in my 75 megahertz Pentium. I mean, that's not to say that I won't have a Pentium somewhere that has an insane amount of RAM, because I do. It's just not the rebuild, because I never had 128 megs of RAM in my first PC. However, I do have a socket 7 board, and I have 128 megs of RAM for it, and that board can cache all of it. In fact, the board came from Gutbomb. After 2 attempts to buy one on eBay, I got one from Gutbomb, and it works. We won't go into what's... yeah, one of the 2 boards that I tried to buy are it's in my scrap pile, if that says anything. Jesse says it was new old stock and compact branded. I couldn't say no. $15 shipped. Well, I probably couldn't say no either. Oh, the other thing is, if anyone's wondering, was the Asus PI P55 T2 P4? It's the one that had the Asus Media Bus connector on it. Yeah, the Asus Socket 7 one. That was it. Yeah, I've got 128 megs of RAM in that board. And I have the extra Tagram chip installed so that it can cache all of it. So yeah, that's my Socket 7 board that gets an insane amount of RAM. And if I can... Oh, yeah, Gutbomb says, I got that one from the Big Bad Biologist, so it's done some traveling. Yeah, I've got that. I've got a case for it. Well, I'll probably actually put it in a case for December. If I don't decide to do it sooner, but... I feel like... Test. Friends of computers the world over. At least the good thing is it does appear as if this motherboard is working. And it configured a Pentium processor. I am somewhat curious as to what BIOS version might be on this board, because it's revision 2.0. I was somewhat curious if maybe there was a version of the... It was a BIOS issue. Although the weird thing is, I tried several versions of... I tried several versions of the BIOS on the one I have, and... I mean, I wasn't going to try every last one the RetroWeb had, because they have about a dozen. But I think I... Well, there was some board, I went back several versions, and it had the same problem. Maybe it wasn't this board. But my theory is there's a problem with the CMOS, the SRAM on the first board I bought. And there's like some bad memory in the SRAM that's battery backed. And it happens to be the part of the SRAM that saves the processor configuration. Because I find it odd that the BIOS just locks up when you try to save a Pentium processor setting. So I'm kind of wondering if maybe the SRAM has a bad byte or something in it. And it just so happens that AMD works because maybe it doesn't use that byte, or however that byte's bad, it still saves the correct setting. But when it goes to try to save the Intel setting and probably checks what it saved or tries to calculate the checksum, it just locks up, because why would the BIOS expect you could have bad SRAM? I think while this runs, I think I'm going to go... I think I'm going to go grab my first rebuild tower so I can at least take a peek in it and see what RAM I do have in it, so I can start to plot what I need to do to swap stuff. Also, I need to pull the AMD processor out of it, because I do want to check that I can configure an AMD processor in this board, because if it's got a problem with an AMD processor, I have an even bigger problem. So let me go grab that, and... Okay, so I got the tower. And I did find the PCI bracket that I think last time I couldn't find the PCI bracket that I had painted. So I did find the PCI bracket that I repainted because the bracket that was on the video card that I bought for this rebuild was rusty. So it turned out pretty nice. So yeah, it'll be somewhat noticeable that I replaced it or I repainted it, but I figured that would look better than rust. So I think I'll go ahead and put the bracket back on the card. Okay, I think I do have 32 megabytes of memory, and I'm not sure if it's EDO or not. Anyways, I'm going to pull the AMD processor out. Set it to the side so we can give it a test. Oh. I just realized I swiped the IDE cable out. Oh, IDE cables out of this. Bad me. That also might mean I forgot to order cables because the ones I have might not be long enough. Well, okay, so maybe I won't be finishing the rebuild tonight because it's quite possible I have forgotten to order cables I need, but we'll get it closer. How about that? Alright, so this is the video card for the rebuild. It is an S3 Verge. I don't think the one I had back in the day had the upgraded memory on it. However, the card I bought did, so I left it. Because I decided I was not going to remove it since it was installed from the purchase I made of it. Because, I mean, I'm not totally sure that I didn't have upgrade RAM in the one I had. But I'm not sure that I did. You can't see it in my blurry photo. I mean, you wouldn't be able to... Even if the photo was in focus, you wouldn't be able to see if there was RAM in the socket. So... Alright, so this is zinc paint. I'm kind of expecting that I may make marks in it putting these on. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to put it on loosely, and then I'll put it in the case and make sure it lines up. There we go. Oh, that looks pretty good. I think that'll line up. So, I did replace the VGA connector on this card, because not only was the bracket rusty, the VGA connector was, but I was able to successfully repair it. So, that gives me the card I had back in the day. Wow, the chat is kind of quiet tonight. Of course, I know RAM tests can be so enthralling, but it'll be done. It may be done very shortly, as in I may just stop it because I think the RAM that came in this board is fine. Totally fine. Alright, let's make sure the bracket lines up. Oh, Gut Bomb recognizes the keyboard. Yes! The keyboard Gut Bomb sent me. It's an old AST AT keyboard. Because the AT keyboard I was using for testing liked to misbehave. So Capcom said, well, if you pay for shipping, I'll send you this keyboard. So I couldn't say no. All right. Oh, yeah, it works totally fine. It works better than my other keyboard. All right. Capcom got it from a guy that worked at IBM for 30 years. Oh, neat. Yeah, it actually works pretty good. It's just a AST AT keyboard, fairly decent weight. I don't know if it's got key switches because I haven't looked, but I guess we could pull a key off and let me pull something off that's easier to get to, like the insert key. Huh. Well. Oh, Gutbomb says it's foam and foil. Oh, well. That would explain its weight. Well, it seems to work just fine. For now. I guess someday I'll have to re-foam and foil it. Alright, I think MIM test is... I think that's enough MIM test. For now. Alright, so let's see what happens if I swap CPUs. I think... I'm not totally sure, but I think this board is able to see that you swapped processors. Or I'll probably just clear the CMOS real quick. Alright. See if I remember where clear CMOS is, or... Well, you know, it might power up. Might power up just fine like that. Oh, there we go. Oh, there we go. Yes, I remembered correctly. It did... If you noticed, it did notice that it went back to AMD. Oh, hey, K-Back Vintage. Will is in the chat. Wow, that is an insane amount of RAM for... an AMD K5 PR90. Which is the first processor I had. My compact flash card not bootable on this computer? Did I hit a key by accident? Interesting. It says J. Oh, I gotta put this in. It did have a Gotek and compact flash IDE back then too. No, I didn't. I gotta put... The case has the hard drive and floppy drives in it. I'm just doing this to test it before I swap boards. And there does seem to be something amiss. Alright, let me load setup defaults again. CPU soft menu, PR90. I think 3.52 volts is correct for the PR90. Standard CMOS setup. Looks right. BIOS setup. Chipset features. Memory hold disabled. That's all fine. Alright. Power management. Alright. Disabled. Reset the plug and play data. I think that's fine. Maybe it's going to make me pull out the hard drive and try it. This is BIOS 1G. Okay. Maybe the CPU doesn't like that much RAM. Yeah, I've never seen it just print J either. Okay, let me try this card. Bad thing is it's the same type of card, so if this BIOS doesn't like the card, it's probably not going to like that one. And I'm going to put the compact flash card into my Windows computer and Bitdefender scan. Oh, well, look at that. Okay. Okay, well, I mean, we do have... that's weird. I've never seen it just say J either. I'm kind of wondering if maybe the... Alright, I'm going to put the card back in. I'm going to put a DOS boot disk in. And I'm going to do an fdisk/mbr. I mean, I think this processor should be okay with 64 megabytes. Oh, I found a webpage that says it supports 4 gigabytes. um... Yeah, I think it was probably referring to its maximum address space, not its actual maximum supported amount of RAM. think there's... Alright, don't need to do a surface scan. Could be just the CF card, yeah. Wait. Scan disk didn't find any file system errors. I did the fdisk/mbr, and I even reran sys. And my Windows computer saw files on it. Something got corrupted on it. There we go. It's booting now. So maybe the boot sector got corrupted. Maybe the master boot record got corrupted. Anyways, there we go. DOS 6.22 sees all 64 megabytes of RAM. So if we do a hardware info, maybe I have the Michelangelo virus. Well, I virus scanned the compact flash card on my Windows computer, and Bitdefender did not find any viruses. I mean, true, maybe it doesn't know to look for those old viruses, but I'm pretty sure they still do. Alright, there we go. Looks like everything is seen correctly. No errata. That's when Gutbump says it's funny. I actually did that. Yeah. I mean, after all, we don't want to not be able to do this. Okay, now granted, this is with a ATI Mach 64, which is a quite competent graphics card. Still, I think that's running at quite a decent speed for an AMD K5 PR90. Although, I think it's a PR90, but it actually runs at 90 megahertz. I think this one came out before they changed PR to mean like rating, and or maybe it's just a 90. Oh. Make sure to try Quake. 2134 game ticks and 1409 real ticks. Alright, we'll run Quake. And then we'll put this board in the computer. Okay. I think my scaler is making the image look darker than it actually is, because it looks really nice on my multi-sync monitor. Yeah, really low gamma. Yeah, my multi-sync monitor is handling it way better than the scaler, because I have an NEC multi-sync flat panel to my right. It looks really good. I mean, it's darker, but it's like the appropriate level of dark. It's not like so dark you can't play it. Wow, this is actually 19.7 frames per second. Nice. That's actually pretty nice. And there was one other thing I wanted to do. Let's run cache check. I'm curious what the cacheable amount of RAM on this board is. Well, that's interesting. Cache check shows this as an authentic AMD 486 clocked at 1927.4 megahertz. I can definitely tell you that this Pentium 90 is not clocked at 2 gigahertz. That is like really funny, Cash Check. Really funny. I have a feeling that it's probably going to be cacheable up to like 32 or 48 megabytes. Although it is the VX chipset. I think the board can support 128, but I'm thinking the cacheable limit is... I mean, it could be 64, but I was thinking that the cacheable limit was lower on this system. It's probably not in the manual. Okay, yep, the board does support up to 128 megabytes. It does not say anything in the manual about cacheable limit. Although, I'll tell you what, if this doesn't find the limit with 64 megabytes, we will borrow the 128 megabytes so we can rank how well I did picking a motherboard for future upgradability. Although, we may go start the second PC rebuild first, but I will at least at some point borrow the RAM and try it. Because I have the ability to populate it. Amazing what you can buy on eBay, including 128 megabytes of matching memory modules that are EDO even. Ooh, speed. I think I have a board around here that's got a cacheable limit of like 48 megabytes. Although that one might be a 486 board. Although that is some impressive memory access speeds. 3 microseconds per kilobyte. Up to 8K. That would be the cache size on the AMD processor. Then like 6, 7, and 8 microseconds per kilobyte. Up to 512 kilobytes. Okay, that makes sense. I was thinking this board did have 512K of cache. So, nice. Alright, something tells me maybe it is 64 megabytes on this board. Which is cool. I'll borrow the RAM from I'll borrow RAM from the other board at some point. We'll confirm it's 64 megabytes, which I would rank that as a good choice. That would have meant if I went to college with this computer and at some point bought a lot of RAM, I would have been able to upgrade it. In fact, I would almost like to try one other experiment with this board while I have it on the bench. If I have the processor handy. I may not have it handy. Okay. We'll try it later too. I was going to put a 233, a 200 or 233 MMX in it. Okay, looks like it may be 64 megabytes. I doubt it's 128 megabytes cacheable limit on this board. I think it's 64. Although it could be 56. There are some boards that have like an oddly weird limit. I know HX, I think, can cache up to 128 megabytes if you have enough tag RAM on the board. And I think that's usually on some of these the limit. The limiting factor is tag RAM. Is there enough tag RAM to save the address for the cache line? Because usually the way these caches work, and I'm simplifying it, is each, like, the cache is divided up into, like, segments, I guess would be the best word I can come up with, of, like, a certain amount of RAM, and then the tag tells the computer where in memory that RAM belongs to. But to simplify the design, not just any memory address can be in that particular, I think they call it a cache line. So the tag is telling it which of the memory addresses, it's the address of whatever's in the cache line, but since like certain cache lines can go to certain addresses, it doesn't have to save the full address. It just only has to save enough of the address so it knows which of the addresses is on the cache line, because only certain addresses could be on that cache line. But, so that's how, if you've ever looked at a motherboard and wondered how they can get away with only an 8-bit wide tag RAM, that's because they only have to save enough of the address to know which of the eligible addresses for that cache line are on that cache line. But to cache up to 128 megabytes, it needs more bits for the tag RAM, so the HX chipset supports having effectively 2 tag RAMs, so it has 16 bits for the address and not just 8. So, okay, so this board, 64 megabytes is cacheable. I suspect that's the limit. It's actually, that's not a bad limit for a consumer board. And it seems like it's well designed, because those actually were pretty decent memory access speeds. So, yeah. So I think at least for the, did I pick a good board? Yeah. At least everything I'm seeing, I think I chose wisely. Now, the neat thing about these 8-bit boards, or a bit, or I don't know how you're supposed to say their company name, they were the first company to implement a soft configuration for the CPU. I know a number of board manufacturers copied them afterwards, but they were the first. They had the first soft CPU configuration, and I think this board would have been one of the first, because I think that was something they came up with during the Pentium era. So, other boards, like the one I have sitting here that I had for video card testing on Tuesday, other boards are required to use jumpers or dip switches to set the processor speed and voltage. So these jumpers are for voltage, and I think these are the plus speed and multiplier switches. All software configured on this board. So that is pretty cool. And it looks like all right, so I'm going to remove the memory. Okay. So it's got NEC memory. Oh yeah, there's my feline little cat food box that I got some stuff in the other day. So there we go. There's the memory modules that were in the board. So they're non-parity, and they are ECC according to what it detected. And I think these are 70 nanoseconds. Oh, they're all 70 nanoseconds. So okay. So they're 70 nanoseconds EDO, non ECC. All right, I don't remember what is in the board, so let's go to the case. So, all right, I'm gonna put the case up on the bench somehow. Doesn't really fit that well, but I'm going to somehow get it up here. It will probably be off screen because this is, as far as I can tell, the case I had. And it was not a mini tower, it was the mid tower version of the case. So, yay. More room for expansion, right? Okay. So, I do have the sound card. So, we'll quickly review what's in the computer. We have an Audio 1868 card, which has the ESS 1868 chipset on it. From the pictures of the computer that I have, that's the card I determined I had back in the day. The S3 Verge. Not sure if I had the upgrade RAM or not, but the one I bought had the upgrade RAM, so I'm just going to leave it be because it appears to work. I had a radio card. Oh, wait a minute. I've got... wait a minute. I need to go looking because I actually have... Oh, I got something else for this computer floating around the basement. Because this is not the radio card that I remember having, but it was the closest I had found at the time. However, let me see if I can remember where I put it, because of course I would have put it... Wait a minute. Alright, I'm going to ponder for a moment where I put it. I think I found the actual radio card that I had, so I just have to remember where I put the card. It might have been sitting with this computer. Well, I'll go look. All right, and then here is the motherboard that I bought on eBay in the attempt number 1. All right. I don't know why I have mismatched. I don't remember why I have mismatched screws holding the motherboard in, but something tells me that oh, I have a feeling I have standoff the original case standoffs that were in here. Take one screw thread, and then I think I had to add one that used a different screw thread. But for some reason, I left the ones that were in here already. Oh, I think because the of the ones I had, I think I only found one that like really went into the threads. So there we go. And then here's the RAM that I bought. So this motherboard came with this RAM, and I think this RAM is marked as 60 nanoseconds, so it's actually faster RAM. However, I don't know if it's EDO or fast page. We'll see what the BIOS detects it as. But yeah, this is the board, and for whatever reason, this one will not let me save the config for an AMD processor, or for an Intel processor. So something might be wrong with it. Unfortunately, these boards don't use a Dallas module, because that would if it was bad SRAM, then I'd just replace the Dallas module and that'd probably fix it. But I think on the Intel VX chipset, the SRAM is actually in the chipset. So I'm looking just to see if I see any logic chip on here that looks like it's an SRAM that would be the battery backed RAM. And I do not. The only SRAM I see on the board are the cache modules. So there we go. That's the original board. Don't know what's wrong with it, but I might try some experiments on it at some point. Oh, I gotta remove the standoffs. That would probably be helpful. Maybe the next time I'm on Dave's stream or on a future Dave stream, maybe I might pull this board out and try some experiments. Or who knows, maybe or on one of my streams, one or the other. Sometime where I can pull it out and maybe sit down and try all the available BIOS versions and see if maybe there's just a incompatibility with Intel processors, which would be weird that they wouldn't have caught that during validation testing. That would be really weird, considering Intel was would have been #1 processor manufacturer at that time too. But I mean, I'm a quality assurance engineer. I test firmware. And believe me, sometimes embarrassing bugs get out. So how am I to know that some of maybe the last few latest versions of the BIOS on this board broke Intel support and somehow they never fixed it? I mean, I would find that weird. I'd be more likely to believe that if it was maybe Cyrix or AMD broke. But Thomas Armstrong says, test it till it smokes. So, I mean, I suspect that there's probably something wrong with the board, which is why I decided to just buy this second one, because I was fairly sure that it was more likely to be bad SRAM than a repeated string of firmware versions that all broke Intel support on the soft menu. Is just kind of one of those, yes, embarrassing bugs happen, but that one seems like one that I would have thought they would have caught. I mean, okay, so maybe they released the last BIOS with that bug because they didn't catch it, but that was like the last update, so they never fixed it. But when the one before it also had the bug, I realized that was like telling thing number one, that I thought I had a bigger problem than someone broke the last BIOS update. kind of one of those. I could have kind of like the line in Star Trek 6 The Undiscovered Country, where I guess they're outside the beaming shield, and I guess Kirk has finally figured out that Martia is not who she claims to be, and is like right before she becomes a clone of Kirk, it's like, oh, okay, what did they give you, or why, or I don't know what it is, but she's like, one would have been believable, two would have looked suspicious. So yeah, it's kind of like, oh no, I think I knocked a screw on the floor. Like, yeah, one BIOS would have been believable, but two in a row, yeah, that'd be kind of suspicious, that it being a broken Intel support. Alright, I'm going to have to find a... And then that's when she goes into her killed while trying to escape, and then she starts changing into Kirk. Now that would be believable for both. Hey, Rudy, welcome. Alright. We've got the new old motherboard in the case. I've got another screw to replace the one that I knocked onto the floor, and we'll probably find only by the magic of... I can walk down to the basement barefoot real quick one day. Kind of like Legos, but computer screws. Yeah, it's just like the best way to find the little bits of components that I somehow managed to track upstairs. Oh no, of course I don't usually find them by seeing a little silvery something glimmering on the floor. Oh no, usually find them by the magic of stepping on them. Ooh, Gupom says my wife stepped on a Lego last week and cut her foot open. Ow. Ugh. I knew those things were out for blood. I just knew it. Alright. There we go. We got the video card back in. We've got the sound card back in. Got the hard drive, which I think's got some version of Windows on it. And we've got the floppy drives. Of course, I don't have a cable. Alright, leave the radio card out while I try to remember where the box is. Oh, that's right. Okay. I have a few other things for this computer that I haven't installed yet. And the first of which is... So we're going to go ahead and get them as I remember where I put them. I bought a fan. And not just any old fan. One that's probably going to very well mimic what an old fan sounds like. But it's a new old looking fan. Because remember, this is my first PC rebuild, so Noctua did not exist back then, so Noctua can't go in this build. So instead, I don't remember what I paid for this fan, but I probably paid way too much for a plain fan. Rudy says, I'm a fan of that. Yeah. Because I'm pretty sure the case I bought back in the day probably included the fan. Maybe I did buy a fan to put in it, but I think the fan might have been included, but whoever I got this case from might have stripped it out. So, anyways, I've got a 80mm fan that has Molex power connectors on it, because that's what the fan that was originally in this case would have had to have had. This motherboard predates motherboard fan headers, because there are no motherboard fan headers on this board. I have slightly newer socket 7 boards, like the one I got from Gut Bomb that's from Asus. I think it actually has a fan header on it, but I think it's like a proprietary it's not proprietary, it's just like not what the industry standardized on, but it has some pins for fan power. I think it's power only. It's got like 2 pins on the motherboard for a 12-volt fan. I want to say it's just the standard like 2.54mm pin pitch, so I'm kind of glad the industry went to something that was actually a connector that would somewhat lock into place, be a little bit more secure. I think I've got actually 2 boards that I think have like pin pitch connectors, or the standard pin header spacing, and not like the traditional fan header. But then I've got Pentium 2 boards that I guess by that point someone had decided on a fan header style, and because I think all my Pentium 2 boards, not that I have many of them, but I think they all have standard fan headers, including one for the CPU. Although it would not surprise me if Intel was the driving force behind that standard. Rudy's asking, did I buy the fan from OnlyFans? No, I didn't buy it from OnlyFans. Ha ha ha. I bought it from the even better place for buying fans. eBay! The place where I buy the things I later regret. I might regret this fan. I might not be this fan after this stream. Alright, somewhere I have a heatsink for this computer. Let me see if I can find it, as well as the radio card that I bought. I may have put the heatsink on another computer. Okay, so I found a radio card on eBay. It was a couple months ago. that is a much closer match to the one I remember having. Because if you look at the photos of the one I had, the speaker connected out of the back of the card. Because it went into the line in on the sound card. So anyways, I have a sound card here. This means I'll have to go find the drivers for it and install the correct software. Anyways, we'll go ahead and put that card in. Because that is more the correct radio card. I think it's the wrong brand, but it's at least closer to the one I had, so it works. My address, oh, thank you, Gut Bomb. Well, I guess I'll have to go back and edit out part of the live stream at some point. Oh well, oops. What would I do without people to let me know when I have done something entirely embarrassing? There we go. Radio card is in. Let's see here. Let me check something here. Let's see here. Stream settings. Whoop. Let's see here. Okay, there we go. Had to change a quick stream setting so that I don't forget. Alright, and now that I have the radio card in, yes, there we go. The mailing envelope that I embarrassingly put in the wrong spot on the computer has an audio cable that looks really cheap, but will hopefully let me connect the CD-ROM to the sound card. But yes, let's see here. I still haven't found the heatsink I'm looking for. So we'll alright, we'll borrow the blue one until I find the one that oh, if I can get the heatsink on. Alright. Alright, so let's plug in the fan. I'll plug the front panel headers in at some point, but not tonight. And let's see here. Do I have enough power connectors to plug all the drives in? No. Alright. Well, I will... There we go. Now I do. So there's the hard drive. I believe, if I remember correctly, this hard drive was sent to me by Jesse, because I was having so much trouble finding a working 1.6 gigabyte hard drive. So while this is not the exact hard drive I had, because apparently the hard drive I had back in the day is a model that is was not long-term reliable, and it seems like everyone I've tried to buy is dead. Well, Jesse sent me this nice Western Digital Caviar hard drive, which at least so far has been a survivor and is at least better than not having a spinning rust hard drive for the build. Capcom says, I would love to find a working Quantum Bigfoot. That's what I had. I would love to find a working Maxtor 71620. Actually, no, I think it was the 71670 AP. Because that's what I had. And apparently they were junk. I think it was made before Maxtor bought Quantum. I don't know really how much that might have helped them. I mean, maybe their quality did improve some, but... Alright, I'm trying to plug in the audio cable, and... Ah! Jesse says, I found one of those at VCF Midwest. The first 25% of it was fine. Yeah. Yeah, I think I did find that of those Western Digital drives that I did find, they were like the get your hopes up drive. Because it'd like start to be fine. And then you would go get a drink of water or something, and you'd come back and like, yeah. Okay, so I've got this audio cable. And okay, well, that's not the right one, because the pad says, oh, wait a minute. Ground left, ground right. Oh, this is ground left, ground right. Okay. Oh, there we go. That is the correct one. All right. So there we go. I got the audio cable plugged in because this was in the era before digital, like before the computers would just digitally read the sound file and play it. You actually had to connect the analog out from your CD-ROM drive to the CD-ROM in on your sound card. And because this is a mid-tower case, I had to buy a longer cable because the shorter ones just don't fit. I will attempt some cable management at some point, and by cable management, I mean I will manage the cables like I did back in the day, which means it probably won't look like I did much of anything, but, well, historical accuracy. Alright. So, for the hard drive, I'm going to reuse this IDE cable. Gutbum says cable management was a pipe dream back then. Alright, for anyone noticing that I didn't put thermal paste on the CPU, this is not the heatsink that's going on it, and besides, I don't think the CPU will like self-destruct in a few minutes of testing. Okay, let me see if I can find a floppy cable and another IDE cable that does not have a oh wait. Is this IDE cable maybe long enough to reach the CD-ROM? Oh, I think I put the cable on backwards. You know, this cable might be just long enough. Oh, wait a minute. No, I did have them on separate buses, I think, back then. Because I do remember building systems and the way I've got them jumpered. Yeah, they're jumpered for separate buses. Okay. So I guess I can plug this in. Oh. And realize that I had the power switch depressed. Alright, we'll plug this in. Plug the keyboard in. This is... Okay. Oh, we only have 16 megabytes of RAM. Okay. Oh, that's fine. I don't have the floppies plugged in. And there we go. Oh, I guess, I could plug this in. If I can find the... I think it's line. It says line in. It says line out. There we go. Oh, I hit the wrong key on boot. That's why we're going into safe mode. Meant to hit F8. I hit F5. Let's see, do I have anything on here? Oh, I do have... Text Quest. There we go. All right, we got... All right. Okay, looks like we We got sound. We've got 16 megs of memory. Oh, one thing I did want to see was, did it say if it was EDO? No, it looks like it is fast page. I wonder which is faster. Fast page at 60 nanoseconds or EDO at 70 nanoseconds. Should probably turn daylight savings time off. There we go. The new, I know you can't see me because I'm the, oh, actually you can. I forgot. I have a slightly more clearance now. I don't think anyone's still guessed what I changed, which is totally fine. I wonder if this FM radio software happens to work with this. No. I'll have to find the software for it. I mean, there we go. And Gutbomb was saying that he wanted to see spreadsheets, so here you go, Gutbomb. This spreadsheet's for you. No, I didn't want to see that. And Clippy's probably about to try to give me some unhelpful hint. Gutbomb says, no deal. That's not Lotus 123. I thought you said Excel spreadsheets. Because I had Excel on my computer back then. With Clippy. I'm pretty sure I had Clippy. No. How about we not save my absolutely valuable spreadsheet? Alright, I am going to try to do something here. Because I know when I had this computer out last, I didn't install any, like, extra software on it for, say, studying how well or poorly I did in buying stuff. I think I also screwed the hard drive in so that it would not fall out during a seismic event. Oh, good. I only put 3 screws in it. I'm going to pull the hard drive out of this computer. I'm going to hook it up to my Windows computer here. And I am going to copy DOSBench onto it so we can actually run a few minor benchmarks. And then we'll probably go on to the second PC rebuild, because I probably need to order IDE and floppy cables, because I think that's the reason I don't have any in here, is because I don't have any long cables that will actually fit the motherboard. And I need to acquire some. Plus, I got to find the drivers, and with the Internet Archive being in read-only mode, and I don't know if they've brought the... Thing is, I don't think they've brought the their software archives back up, so I don't know if I can download the software for the Reveal radio card if I wanted to. Unless it happens to be on, like, Vogons or something. So... Or unless I happen to download it, but it could take me a while to find it, so... We'll go on to the second PC rebuild without belaboring the point of finding the radio card software. I would at least like to see if maybe if that EDO RAM would be faster than this fast page RAM. All right. So there we go. I got the hard drive in. Hey, we got Jeremy's Vintage Hillbilly Shack here. Hi, Jeremy. I am about to copy DOS Bench over to this hard drive so we can run a memory benchmark real quick. Let's see here. I think I've got that in that folder there. Customized DOS Bench. And you can open that. That is totally fine, Windows. You have my permission. And... Oh, interesting. Oh! My hard drive adapter is not plugged into the computer. That would explain why... I was wondering why the hard drive did not appear as a drive when I plugged the power cable in. And that's because the USB cable for the adapter is not plugged in yet. So I am trying to very carefully maneuver the drive so I can set it somewhere where the USB cable will reach. Because when I thought the cable was plugged in, I was like, oh, I got plenty of space to reach the cable. But no, it wasn't plugged in, so... Okay, I think Windows... Well, Windows did something. Oh, let me guess. This hard drive's not compatible with my... Oh, that's nice. This Western Digital hard drive is not compatible with my USB to a TAPI bridge. Okay, well. Okay, we will not be copying DOS Bench onto that drive. I'll just have to boot from my compact flash card, I guess. Fine, be that way. Well, if I'd realized that, I would have not pulled that drive out of the computer, but moving on. All right. Okay. Compact flash card, plug the IDE cable into it. Turn the power switch on. I'll find another way to copy DOSBench onto the computer. For future use, but I guess for tonight, we'll just use the compact flash card. I mean, at some point, I was going to clone the hard drive onto a compact flash card for, like, normal use, but Thomas is asking, is that a dangerous laser device? I don't know what you're talking about. Oh, I just realized something. I got to go in the BIOS and make sure the memory's set to the right speed. This, chipset features. Oh, okay, it does see it as 60 nanoseconds, alright. Alright, good night, Rudy. We'll talk to you later. Yeah, no problem, Rudy. Alright, I don't have the floppy drives plugged in, and yes, it is floppy drives plural in this system. But I gotta order a cable. Always something like that. Okay, I wanted to run the cache check tool. Oh, now cache check has this processor running at 1.85 gigahertz. That's lovely. Three, 6, 7, 8, 15. You know, I think that EDO RAM might actually be a little bit faster. Even though it's only 70 nanoseconds, I think it might actually be a little bit faster. I think I may have to, like, pan back on my own live stream because I didn't write the numbers down. Alright, well there's... Alright, let me go to full screen there. Let's see, it was, 3, 8, 9... Or 3, 6, 7, 8. 3, 6, 7, 8. 13. 3, 8, 9, 10. Well, I'm looking at the benchmarks I ran with the 70 nanoseconds EDO memory. And I'm looking at the benchmarks from the 60 nanoseconds fast page memory. And the main memory speed is... Okay, the caches are the same speed. That shouldn't be a surprise. So it does look like there is a slight performance benefit to the EDO RAM, even though it's slower. So I'm going to... Since I don't remember exactly how much RAM I had in the computer back then, and I was waffling between 16 and 32 megabytes, this 16 megabytes was the RAM that was with the first motherboard I bought, and that's how I decided I would just use it as my stand-in RAM. Well, since I bought a new old motherboard, and it came with its own RAM. I'm going, as a slight homage to whoever had this board before, I am going to put 32 megabytes of the RAM they had in their computer in mine. So my rebuild will have 32 megabytes of RAM. Because that is like one of the things I can't tell from my picture because cable management was awful back in the 90s. The cable management pretty much was, it's all in front of the memory. So I can't see the memory in the computer. So anyways, I'm making the executive decision to take 32 megabytes of the RAM that was on this motherboard when I bought it. I know I didn't have 64 megabytes, so it's not going to get all 4 modules, but I'm going to let it keep 2 of the modules that came with it as a little homage to whoever had this board before I bought it. Yeah, Gutbum says, Justin's living that geek life. Yes. So now if we run our cash check, should be, yep, there we go. It looks like it's the same numbers that we had with the EDO RAM. Oh, hey Tim, we have VBorg in the chat. All right, so, well, I guess I'll let this finish running while let me do something with these extra RAM modules. I got a box that up where I was putting the RAM in, so that I don't lose that RAM. Although, let me see if I got a little anti-static bag or something. I think I would like to. I will at least put these 4 RAM modules aside in a bag. Just in case I change my mind and I'm like, well, you know, maybe I'll put the other 32 megs of EDO RAM in the board or something like that. But anyways, these are, so at least I remember where the RAM came from. Ah! Tim is work from home for now. Well, good for you. Glad you could kind of, even if you're lurking, glad you could lurk while you work. Ah, and that rhymes. You know, I thought I was a poet, but you'd never know it. Okay, I'm going to go grab a bottle of water while that finishes running. All right. Looks like this computer is... Yeah, it looks like this board is working as I'd expect. So let me put the other 8-bit board in an anti-static bag and... I might eventually sell it on eBay as a... It'll work with AMD processors, but for now I'm just gonna hold on to it and maybe see if I can figure out why it no worky. Because for those of you that weren't here when I explained why I bought another board, the first one I bought for my rebuild, you couldn't configure it for an Intel CPU. And while my rebuild project gets an AMD, because that's what I had in it, I do want to eventually try some experiments to rate how well high school me did in building my first PC. But in order to do that, I needed to be able to configure an Intel CPU in the board. And, well, the first board I bought, the setup would lock up anytime you tried to configure an Intel CPU. Which, I remember building systems at the computer shop back in high school with this board, and I remember using Intel CPUs, and I knew that should work. Should work with Cyrix too, but I don't have any Cyrix processors to test. So I knew that it locking up when you tried to save an Intel processor was indicating some fault with the board. Potentially maybe a later BIOS than I remember running, but, well, I think probably something wrong with the board. In the future, I may see if I can figure out what. Yeah, Tim got his blue scuzzy kit version. All that really needs is the DB25 and the Pico solder door, and I barely call that a kit. Well, given the size of some of those SMD components, I'm glad those are pre-done. All right. So we've got the computer working. It's got... Oh, I guess maybe we could do the Doom and the Quake benchmark with my S3 graphics card that I had, and... Is this actually running faster with this S3 graphics card than that Mach 64? Or are my eyes deceiving me? That looks faster. Jeremy says that Intel CPU issue may be related to the voltages, just a hunch. That would be... Okay, no, my eyes were not deceiving me. That was 1262 real ticks. That was faster than the Mach 64 card. Also, Jeremy, that would not be related to the voltages because the Intel CPU that I was trying on the board, some of them used the same exact voltage as the AMD CPU. So, I could not track it to being a voltage issue to the Intel CPU, because I tried both P54 and P55C processors. I do remember using at least the P54Cs back in the day. The board would post. It would go back to the default speed when it detected there was a new CPU. The board would post. You'd go into setup. You go to the soft configuration menu. It would let you set the correct settings for the CPU, but the moment you hit Y on the save changes and exit prompt, the BIOS would lock up. I think there's a problem with the SRAM on the board, because this board had just worked. I mean, maybe you could convince me that there's a capacitor issue, but the capacitors on the board look fine. And actually, most of them are tantalum capacitors, because A-bit was actually a decent tier board. I mean, maybe I'll try recapping the first board. Maybe it's capped. Maybe it could still be voltages. But the fact that the fact that it locked up saving the settings before it would reboot to actually start using them was telling me that it looked like it was a problem with the board. Like, something's wrong with the board. Because I think I might have tried running the Intel processor configured as an AMD, and I think I might have actually gotten that to work. Not optimal, but I think that might have actually worked. I'd have to go back and look at my notes. And by look at my notes, I mean rewatch my live stream. Jeremy says, yeah, the usual suspects in vintage computers are voltages and logic. Given what the board was doing, I suspected the problem was logic related, not voltage related. Because it did seem as if the board was, given where it was crashing, and given, oh, and the other thing was, if it was voltage related, like, there was a bad cap and there was, like, bad voltage ripple, I would have expected the crash to be random. The problem is, the crash was not random. The crash was very repeatable, and it always happened in the same place. It wasn't it just randomly locks up while you're in the BIOS, or it locks up during post, or what. It always was very consistent. Jeremy says voltages should be verified first. Well, Jeremy, though, the thing is, it was happening. I probably did check voltages at some level at least. The thing is, it was always happening at the point where you hit the Y key to the save changes and exit prompt. Always that very specific point. It never crashed before. It never crashed after. It crashed, like, at the point you pressed the Y key. It would, like, hang. I know, okay, Jeremy says my statement about voltages was a blanket statement, not specific. Yeah. In this case, it was always happening at the same spot each and every time, no matter which Intel processor I actually put in the board to then configure, because obviously if I'm trying to configure Intel processors, I mean, I want to actually have in there what I'm trying to configure in case it works. I mean, granted, if I configured something with a lower voltage, or if I fed a lower voltage to a processor that didn't like it, well, that wouldn't help me, though, because they would probably lock up if it didn't get enough voltage. So I was trying something that would actually work with the voltage that'd be supplied if I was successful. Jeremy says, I hope it's not in the chipset. Well, that's the thing. I was getting to the point where I thought the chipset on the first board I bought was bad, which is why I bought this second identical board from Athens, Greece. And it actually worked. It's working. So the seller even showed it working with an Intel processor, which confirmed my remembrance that this board works totally fine with an Intel processor. So anyways, that's the first PC rebuild. I need to order a floppy cable, because I do not have a floppy cable that has the 5 1/4 inch connector on it that is also long enough to actually reach. And I need to order 2 IDE cables, because there is the key pin's not removed on this board, and this is my rebuild, and I'm not going to cut the pin on the board because yeah. Jeremy just noticed. Yeah, that's the other thing, Jeremy, why I think there's a problem with the board. It's an Intel chipset. I know the chipset is compatible with Intel processors. I mean, it's the first party chipset. So the fact that it would only let me configure AMD processors and save the setting. I mean, it would let me configure the Intel processor. Don't get me wrong. I could configure the Intel processor. But when I went to go save the setting, that it would lock up. AMD processors, no problem. I could configure any of the one AMD Pentium processor that I have. Because this isn't a yeah, Jeremy says Intel plus Intel equals Intel monopoly. Yeah, I know. This board should work with an Intel processor. I mean, there's no reason why it shouldn't. Anyways, that's why I bought the second board. The lockup was in the same place. Voltage-related lockups usually happen. They may happen around the same time, especially if there's a point in whatever you're trying to do where it needs more voltage. But it's usually still somewhat random. But the fact that it happened in the same exact place, no matter which Intel processor I tried, slower ones which use less power, faster ones which use more power, same place every time. It's like, that's why I bought the new board, because that was convincing enough to me, at least, that there's a problem with the board. But don't worry, we will, now that I have a board that I know works, sometime in the future, we will take a look at the board that doesn't work to see if my guess was right. Did I actually diagnose it correctly, that it's there's something wrong with the board? Or did I completely miss something? So make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications, so when I do have one of my troubleshooting videos, well, we'll see how right I was. But until then, at least I can continue with the build, because I have a board that works. So now, because I did kind of want to start to look at my second PC rebuild, let me go set this computer off to the side, and let me go grab the motherboard for my second PC rebuild. All right. And the motherboard for my second PC rebuild is a board that you've probably seen before, but it might have been a while ago. Because, unlike my first PC rebuild, where I tried to take photos of it, that turned out were blurry because my camera couldn't focus that close. Well, I learned my lesson when I built my second PC, and I didn't bother to take pictures of it at all. So this one is going to be more from, I'm going from memory, not exact rebuild. I'm also counting for my second PC rebuild that it's probably going to be a middle of the road config for it. Air quotes, middle of the road config. Because I remember during college, I did upgrade the computer like partway through with a faster processor, which required upgrading the motherboard. So we're not going for that config. Although, don't worry, we'll look at an Athlon XP computer at some point. But for my second PC rebuild, I've decided to keep it socket 7. And as you might be noticing, this is a super socket 7 motherboard. And why is it super? Because it has 100 megahertz front side bus and AGP. Oh, no, Gutbomb's right. This is a K6. This is an AMD K6 something. We'll get to that in a moment. Now, this board actually has the 2 megabytes of level 3 cache. So this is actually a quite nice board. And I have looked at this on a live stream before. This board is actually configured for the processor that's in here. We got 100 megahertz frontside bus, 4x multiplier. I think I have like 100 and... I have like an odd amount of RAM in here if I remember correctly. Oh, no, I have 256 megabytes of RAM in here. Which is, I think, about as much as Windows 98 likes. Ooh, Gutbomb's placed his guess. K6-2500 with 3D Now technology. Ah. Oh, boy. Gutbomb, you are probably going to be disappointed when you realize that I actually dropped a hint as to what processor this was. Oh, yeah, the K6-2s had 3D Now. But I actually dropped a hint as to what this was. It was kind of an obscure hint. Which might be why Thomas guessed socket 370. Because socket 370 would have been Pentium 3. Gutbomb says, now I get the hint. Jeremy says, why not a K6-3? Well, Jeremy, I can tell you one good reason why not a K6-3. They're, like, overpriced these days. That would be one reason why you would not pick a K6-3. However, I used thermal paste. I had the audacity to use thermal paste. However, I bought this as a motherboard and CPU combo, and this is one of the times where I think I bought it now without thinking about it much. Because, yeah, it's an AMD K6-3. I probably did still overpay for it somewhat. Oh, I forgot. This motherboard actually has a proper CPU fan header. So yeah, it's an AMD K6-3 400 megahertz. I'm fairly sure that I had a K6-3 at some point. In fact, I probably had a K6-3 Plus at some point back in the day. Because back then, well, they weren't as expensive, and I was trying to extend the life of my computer that I was using for programming classes as much as I could. So I think I had a K6-3 Plus, although I could be wrong. Maybe I just had a K6-3. Jeremy says the K6-3 only came in 400 and 450. thought, oh, well then maybe I had a K63 Plus because I think it came in 500. Because something in the back of my mind was telling me I had a 500 megahertz at some point. Or maybe it was a K62 Plus. I mean, the thing is, I can't find any of the purchase receipts, despite the fact that I have some emails from that long ago. I could not find any purchase receipts related to this computer. So that's the other reason why I'm going on a best guess rebuild, is I don't have any of the receipts from this computer. I guess I deemed they weren't worth keeping. AMD went weird at the end at the K6 lineup. Yeah, anyways, so this motherboard I bought on eBay sometime last year. It had a K63 in it. I don't remember right offhand if the listings... I'm pretty sure the listing said it was a K63. Let me see if I can find how much I paid for this, because I'll let you all ridicule me that I probably paid too much for it. I know the listing is going to have evaporated from eBay by now. However, at least the listing might be evaporated, but I can still see the purchase. I just don't remember exactly when I bought it, but let's see here. Oh, here we go. Oh, I paid less for this than I thought I did. I paid $109.95 plus shipping. Oh, and it came with the RAM too. Okay. Huh. I sure thought I overpaid for this board, but actually, I may have gotten a bargain on it. Maybe that's why I keep thinking that as soon as I saw it, I bought it now, because I think maybe I did get a bargain on this board. Well, what do you know? All right, well, I guess to celebrate, and because this is definitely one of those times where I'm going to use thermal paste to protect the CPU from itself, I'm going to reapply thermal paste. So, Gutbomb says, I bought most of my stuff at Fry's or CompUSA back then. I don't remember if I bought the K63 processor from the computer shop I worked at, because I did work there the first summer back from college. But I don't know if the K63 would have been out then. Or I may have bought it at Newegg, which, actually, if I bought it at Newegg, I think I went back to look at my Newegg purchase history, and I think they stopped, they got rid of some of their really old purchase history or something weird like that. Because where I went to college, there was definitely no Fry's or CompUSA or Circuit City, or, well, I mean, there was probably a Circuit City in the town, and the city an hour away. Or no, actually, I think it is a town. I think I was right. I think it is. I didn't have a car at that time, so I don't think there was any Best Buys in the area. Walmart certainly didn't sell processors. Kmart didn't either. I probably ordered it from Newegg. Anyways, there we go. I have. Yeah, Cupbum says I looked at Newegg yesterday to find an old laptop that I bought there in 2007, and my purchases only went back to 2008. Yes, okay. I guess I was correct because I think I went to Newegg at some point to look up some of my old purchases to try to figure out like some of my old builds, and I think I realized that yeah, they got rid of a bunch of their old purchase history. I don't know when they did it, but sure enough, I couldn't look up some of my very old purchase history with them. So and I apparently didn't see the need of keeping purchase receipts from stuff I bought in college. So, or most of the stuff I bought in college. The weird thing is, here's the funny thing. I have found the receipts for some books I bought back then. The computer parts, though, past me deleted them because I guess I figured that no one's ever going to need to know what I bought. I can tell you I bought some boring books, though. That's for certain. Oh, I'm going to need to get a different keyboard. Because we are now in the Super Socket 7 era, and we don't need no stinking AT keyboard. We need a PS2 keyboard. Gupom says, I bought some weird DIY bare bones laptop from a company called Compal on Newegg back in 2007. Yeah, I kind of wanted to go back and look at my... Because actually, I tried to go back and look at my Newegg purchase history from, like, 2000, 2001. Because that would have probably been at least one of the points where I upgraded the computer I had at college. No. No such luck with purchase history. Alright, so... Alright, so we've got the motherboard. Got a keyboard, processor. I applied some thermal paste. Ah, yes. The video card we didn't get to last time because I ran out of time, but we have the Trident card, the one that came with the free Sega game. See, there we go. I'm balling now. I'll let you be the judge whether I said BALLING or BAWLING. Alright, so I've got my compact flash card with stuff on it. So we can try to boot. Keyboard's plugged in. I think I got a good CMOS battery. Alright, I guess it's time to see if I can find the reset speaker key lock. Power on. There we go. Oh, it would help if I plugged in the video card, wouldn't it? Alright, we're going to try a reset. There we go. All right. Let's see here. Standard CMOS setup. 22. Oh, wow. It looks like it's keeping pretty good time because it's only off by about 10 minutes. And I don't know how long it's been sitting with the clock battery in it, so I'd call that pretty good. All right, let's see here. Oh, let me turn off the floppy because I'm not plugging in the floppy. BIOS features, I think all that's fine. Chipset features, probably fine. Power management, turn that off. Plug and play OS is no because we're going to boot DOS. Integrated peripherals. We'll just turn that to EPP. And okay, that all looks fine. And save and exit setup. There we go. Tim says, meh, plugging in video cards are for chumps that want to see things. All right, we see all 256 megabytes of RAM. We have video from the Trident card. This fan, I thought this fan had PWM, but no, it's just... It's weird, this motherboard turns the fan off when you first reboot it. Alright, let's see what we got here. Good old Trident cards. You know we gotta benchmark this to see how well this card works. Can you believe it? 253.8 frames per second. Alright, the Chris's 3D benchmark, aka the blobby QB thingy. Wow, look at that blobby QB thingy. QB thingy. .6 frames per second. That is impressive. Okay, well, the PC player benchmark has some flashing problems. I've noticed that with newer video cards that, however it's writing data to the video card, it does that. So I don't think that's an indication the card's bad. I think it's an indication that it's a newer card and it accepts memory rates differently, and I can't really explain that well, but it's just something I've heard. 27.3. My head's in the way. Alright, we will try Doom for faster PCs. And we are probably basically running up against the limits of the Doom engine, because yeah, 2134 game ticks and 712 real ticks. I think that's pretty much running up against the limits of the engine itself. Alright, Quake time demo. Oh, wow. Okay, I think it's actually running at... Okay, my multi-sync monitor does not like the video input, yet I can see the game on it, but it's giving me an error that it's out of range. But it must be just out of range that it's still able to display it, but it's not at the correct aspect ratio. Wow, this is actually... the Achilles heel of these AMD processors. Oh, we're gonna run this at the lower resolution because I think the AMD 90, even though I told it run for faster, it ran at the lower resolution. Unfortunately, I think this is just showing the FPU in these AMDs was not as good as Intel's FPU. So even though we got clock advantage, we do not have FPU advantage. Also, I'm pretty sure this is software 3D rendering, even though I'm sure the Trident card would probably not really help, but it's not helping as far as I know. Wow, this is like... I can definitely see that... show that with a card like this, I was not playing Quake while in college. .5 frames per second. And I'm actually not sure what resolution that was actually running at because... Alright, we'll run the standard time demo. There we go. I think that's the resolution that we ran the demo on the AMD 90. .74 frames per second. That actually was pretty good. And I guess we'll run the medium Quake time demo. Okay, so it looks like this computer might have been good for the low resolution or the 480 by whatever I just picked. Yeah, 640 by 480 though. Not a good combo for that resolution. The 2 megabytes of L3 cache cannot help it. There we go. That was 30. I think that's a 32.5 frames per second. Yeah, definitely playable. Right. I guess we can do a cache check. Okay, that's weird. So my AMD 90 was reporting as being like 1.9 gigahertz. Well, apparently this one's only reporting to be 626.4 megahertz. So that megahertz cache check. Yeah, and they're all reporting as being an authentic AMD 486. Yeah, that's the other weird thing. Yeah, apparently this tool cannot tell them apart. Also, interestingly enough, I think the access times up to 512K were so short that I guess it couldn't score it. Yeah, that's actually pretty impressive for memory access. Also note DOS I think has a 64 meg limit, so it can't see the other 192 megabytes. Yeah, it's actually okay. I'm gonna restart. We don't need to wait for that. It's fast. You know, I miss graphics card banners like that. I always enjoyed seeing the banner when you restart for your graphics card. It made you, I guess, know that you picked a good graphics card because it actually had a banner. Yeah, we ain't got time to let cache check finish running. Is there anything else? Oh, I guess hardware info. See the info on the board. So anyways, yep. So other tools can see that this is a AMD K63. We've got, so it's got 32K of instruction level 1 cache, 32K of data level 1 cache, 256K of level 2 cache, and 2 megabytes of level 3 cache on the motherboard. And it is the VIA MVP3 chipset. And we got AGP2X. We have the Trident 3D Image 975. Or as it says on the chip, 3D Image 9750. We're not going to overclock this CPU. At least not yet. We have 4 megabytes of SG RAM. And yeah, a whopping 4 megabytes. Oh no! This processor has the AMD K6 DRX bug. What will we ever do? No, Jeremy, this is actually not one of the cards you got for me for one very important reason. Because I bought the one that was new and, well, used in box. I think it had been used. But no, I bought the actual card I remember at least selling at the computer shop. If not, I'm...
Ladies and
I did buy it on eBay, so me forgetting to turn that video off was somewhat appropriate. But yeah, I bought one that was in the box. See, it had the free Sega game. It has TV output. I probably have the one you bought for me if it's probably in the box if it works, but yeah, Wheel of Regrets said, oh, hey, Sad Mac. Yeah, so anyways, that's what this card is. It's one like I remember having, even though it's probably could be identical to one Jeremy got picked up for me. But the one Jeremy picked up for me didn't have the free Sega game. Because it was just the loose card. Yeah, now you see how quickly I can convince myself to buy a duplicate thing. See, CPU identification utility can tell this thing apart. Yeah, I bought the card I kind of remember thinking I had. So that's... Oh. So that's the second PC rebuild motherboard and video card. There is the PCI bracket in the box. I just have to go find some of the hex standoffs to reattach it because they were missing. So I got to figure out which of my 3 computer screw assortments actually has the extra standoffs in it. And it's probably the StarTech brand one. Anyway, so I'll put the bracket on when I manage to find some of the extra hex nuts. Now, sound card. I have not managed to find the sound card I remember having. I believe I had an Acer FX3D sound card. But before you jump on eBay and say that there's a bunch of them, there's one important distinction. I remember having the one that actually had the wavetable on it. All the ones I've seen don't have the wavetable chips on it. So, I occasionally look. I have not seen it. But that's the sound card I remember having. So, that's the one I'm trying to find. The Acer FX3D. It has the wavetable chips on it. And I haven't found it yet. So, there is no sound card for this computer yet. Now, we start to getting into the more interesting parts. What would be a rebuild? Of course, oh no, it's like 11:38. Where does time go when you're having fun? What would be a rebuild without a case? Well, it would be a rebuild without a case. All right. Let me move this to the side because it's time to reveal the case. And unlike some of the things that I've had to guess on, or I've bought it because it seemed like it was what I had, because I seemingly remember having one, like the Trident 3D accelerator, because it cost less than the competition. I remember which case I had, so without further ado, I am going to introduce you to Justin's second PC rebuild case selection. Place your guesses in the chat as to what it might be. I think I've mentioned it before. Let me go. Realize that I probably have set something on it and in front of it and behind it and oh yeah, I did. There we go. There is stuff on top of it. And before you say I did that to hide it from you all, no, nothing that coordinated. Oh, wait a minute. I just realized I might actually have a floppy cable for the first PC rebuild. I'll set that in a safe spot. Still need IDE cable. Alright. Oh, I forgot this thing had a zip drive in it. Oh, it's got cables in it too. Alright, introducing the second PC rebuild case. It's a case. Where did this fine case come from? Megamed Faye, perhaps. Oh, wait, there's no disguising it. It came from eBay, the place where I buy things I later regret. Anyone have any idea what case this might be, even though you can only see, like, the front bezel? I'm going to take the cover off before I set it down. Well, I guess no one's... I have stumped the audience. Well, let's just say this might be one of my favorite vintage cases because it has features that I wish modern cases had. It also is dusty as all get out. But any guesses now that you can see it? Tim says, pretty sure I know exactly what case it is. Jeremy says it's beige and full of sharp edges. That would be incorrect, Jeremy. This is not a Leanne Lee case. This is an in-win case. This is the case I had my second PC in. And I picked one up on eBay. Yeah, it's got, well, the zip drive is being removed. I did not have a zip drive in college. So I am going to remove the zip drive. Alright, does look like there might be a little bit of plastic damage on the bezel, but it's in a spot where it's probably at a spot where it'll be hard to see, so I'm not. Jeremy says I always get those confused. Yes, this is an InWin A500, I believe. Because it's not the... It's the, I think, mini tower version. Because the mid towers were taller. Also, InWin was pretty good about bending the sharp edges over, so... These... I actually enjoyed building computers in the InWin cases because they were... all the edges are bent over. I mean, I'm sure there's somewhere. Well, Jeremy says this case is better for a slot 1 or a slot A build. Well, I'm not putting a slot 1 or a slot A in it because I actually... I guess back in the day, I never owned a slot 1 or a slot A. I went straight from socket 7 to socket A. The PSU over the CPU chokes with a top draw cooler. Yeah, that was the problem I had with it's not a problem with the the power supply that's in here is different than the one I had. But anyways, yeah, when the one I had back in the day, it had a power supply that had the fan that would have been located here and blowing in the case, which when I had my socket 7 computer, I think was fine because the processor was more over in this area. So it was okay, but when I upgraded this computer, or my second computer, to have a socket A motherboard, the processor was here, and I actually, at some point after building it, or upgrading it with that socket A motherboard, I actually did have to put it in a new case that didn't have the cooler where it was, so... But yeah, I like the pull-out tray. But anyways, we're not rebuilding the last configuration I remember having in the case because it was a bad configuration. We're rebuilding the socket 7 part of it because I have some fond memories of socket 7. Socket 7 can be a fun platform. Socket 7 can be a platform you can put Trident cards in. Because, well, I think Trident stopped making graphics cards at some point. But yeah. Now, this case doesn't have the same power supply that I had in college in it. Apparently the one it has actually is a probably the one that's more proper for the computer, and it's one that actually has I think it has an exhaust fan that blows out the back, so it shouldn't conflict with the airflow of the heatsink. Tim says Trident will never stop making graphics cards. That's lunacy. Jeremy says Socket 7, overkill for DOS, but underpowered for Windows. I beg to differ. I think Socket 7 ran Windows 95 just fine and 98 acceptably. And Windows ME, well, that was just a selfish Windows release anyways, so that was just a cash grab. All right. We need a thing for the case. An IO shield. Because this motherboard did not include an IO shield. Fortunately, I have a selection of IO shields. And I may have a few more if none of these fit, but I see at least one more sitting over there. VBorg says, let's put Vista on it. No, we're not going to put Vista on this computer. I never ran Vista on this computer. In fact, I don't know. I think Vista's just a I don't like Vista. Okay, I got a bunch of Dell shields. I'm trying to see if I've got one that has that doesn't have the sound, USB, and network ones punched out, but that is looking doubtful. All right. Okay, let's see if I can find a shield that matches this alignment. Okay, so I need PS2, USB, parallel, and serial. Something tells me that I may be searching for IO shields on eBay. Okay, that one might actually... That one might fit. That's a Dell one. That's... Okay. We'll, I don't want to aluminum tape it. I'm picky. I would rather have a shield that doesn't have extra holes in it. VBorg, I like making custom 3D printed IO shields. Well, that would be probably the time where I would... Oh, did I completely overlook one of my piles of IO shields? Maybe I'm being a bit pickier for rebuilds because I want the computer to feel like it actually belonged in the late 90s to early 2000s. So I don't really want to 3D print a shield for this computer out. And you know, I don't think this style shield fits on these cases. Oh, I think I am going to have to find a shield. Because I don't know that these cases take the snap-on shields. I think they, take ones that have like 2 tabs on the top that insert in from the back and are then held in by the motherboard. Because I'm trying to snap the shield in just to at least put something in it for now. And it won't snap in. I think the opening is slightly the wrong shape. Even though this is a shield for a motherboard that had sound, and I don't have onboard sound. Yeah, this is a standard one, so it should be easy to find. It's just I probably didn't realize I didn't have a shield for it. No. Yeah. Nope. Hammer's not going to fix it, Thomas. This push-in shield is not it's too big. But it's too big in a way that a hammer alone is not going to fix it. Okay, so I don't have an IO shield. So, and alright, so I don't have an IO shield. It's 5 till midnight, so I'm not pulling out the Dremel. And this is a rebuild project, so there will be no excessive jank in trying to put this together. I did not take a Dremel to my computer in college, or high school. So I am not going to take a Dremel to it now. I know I'm being picky, but hand files it is. Let me see if I've got any more IO shields, but I think I'm going to have to find the in-win shield to fit this so that it fits right. Because I have a feeling I don't have any shields for this motherboard. Nope. Okay, I've got a few more over here somewhere, and I'll leave the kludging to computer that's not a rebuild project. The Enlight case I have is making fun of my InWin case because if I was putting this in my Enlight case, then it would just go in. It has the correct shield in it. And it doesn't even have extra things punched out. Yeah, I'm glad that modern ones have them attached too. So All right, because it is right about midnight, and I am going to have a long day tomorrow, but not necessarily because of work only, but because, well, I gotta pack for traveling. So I am going to go ahead and end here. Vborg says, "Don't feed Justin after midnight. It's a rule." Anyway, because it looks like I need to get a so I need to get a floppy cable and hard drive cables for the first PC rebuild, and I need to get an IO shield for this rebuild, and I also need to find my the nuts for the video ports, because not only is this card missing them, but the parallel port on this motherboard is too. So I gotta find those. So I can at least attach the bracket on the Trident card. And I guess we'll continue from there. So anyways, yeah, that's the start of the second PC rebuild. I've pretty much decided that this seems to be the correct motherboard CPU combo. Maybe it wasn't necessarily what I started the build with, but I upgraded to it at some point. And yeah, we'll go from there. The Trident card, the motherboard. Hopefully I'll find the sound card. I mean, worst comes to worst, if I can't find one with the wavetable chips built in, I may just get one that doesn't have them built in, just so I at least can have a sound card. But then the other thing is I gotta try to remember about what size optical drives I would have had at the time. But anyways, I think this is a good place to stop. So don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you know next time I go live. I will not be live streaming next week. So the next stream on the 29th, we're going to be looking at the bump bar that a couple other famous YouTubers, such as This Does Not Compute, have looked at. I am going to try to get Doom running on it, but unlike those previous attempts, I am going to try to get MIDI running on it too, so that you can actually have music in Doom. And then on the 31st, I am going to have my Halloween stream. It will be Jurassic Park themed. And we are going to be looking at the Quadra 700. So you won't want to miss that. And then in November, well, there's plenty of other things to look at. So, but you don't want to miss the week after next. So with that, I'm going to wish everyone, thank everyone for hanging out with me for my rebuilds and putting up with my more exactness than usual exact self. Oh yeah, Jeremy's reminding me. Yes, there was one thing. Yes, I forgot to mention it earlier. If you would like to appear in my Halloween stream, then you can pick your favorite quote from one of the Jurassic Park films, please G-rated, and you can take a video of yourself saying that quote and then send it to me. I will need them by the 29th so I can actually have a chance to compile it together, and you can be in the stream. So, and you can reach out to me for more details, but I would like to put something together with folks saying their favorite line, and I realize I'm risking 15 people saying Ian Malcolm's line, "Life finds a way," but while that's a risk, I am just going to have to take. And I know Jeremy has his own special contribution that we're collaborating on, so we can look forward to that too, hopefully. And okay, with that, I'm glad you all hung out and were cool in the chat and put up with me being rather exact instead of a little more willing to be flexible. But these are my rebuilds, not some of my other shenanigans. I'm trying to keep them like they would have been. Sad Max says, I was expecting like 15 It's a Unix system renditions. Well, maybe I'll have 7.5 of each, and don't ask me how we have half and half. It's a Unix system. Finds a way. I don't know. Anyways, yeah, I'm glad you all were here. Thanks for joining. And with that, oh yeah, the one other thing, no one figured out what I changed about my streaming setup. So I guess I'm going to admit to it, so that then maybe you can give me feedback whether or not it actually is a good thing or a bad thing. But I'm grabbing the box here. I have a new webcam. So, did my face cam look better or worse than usual? Do I need to maybe adjust the ring light on it? So, I guess you can leave a comment about how you thought my video quality looks. Now, audio's through the microphone here, so you wouldn't have noticed that. But yeah, this webcam right here is different. So the framing is, I changed the framing slightly because the camera mounts slightly differently, but hopefully the framing's okay. Yeah, you might have noticed that the support beam is not in frame anymore. So anyways, I would be, face cam FPS is a bit slow. I don't know if I can do anything about that. At least it has the benefit of the face cam is hopefully not. I think the colors look a little better. I don't know. I have a love-hate relationship with webcams. Inevitably, you get something better and there's a trade-off, and unless you spend hundreds of dollars, the trade-off is usually some other aspect of quality. And unfortunately, my streaming computer doesn't have USB 3.0 or USB-C ports, so that excludes any of the 4K webcams that I could have a solid 30 FPS at 1080p. And no, a USB-C add-on card would not help because I have no expansion slots to install one in. So yeah, I'm glad I gotta pick a 1080p webcam that plugs into USB-A, and so we get to play the trade-off game, and I guess slow FPS may be something I have to put up with, because at least I don't look washed out, and the webcam isn't glitching out. So there was that. Remember, my old webcam was glitching out, and sometimes would even refuse to work at first, so I'm considering this a solid win, as long as it doesn't start to do the same thing. So yeah, if we got slightly worse quality on the face cam, well, just keep in mind, I think the old webcam was failing. So there's that. Anyways, let me know what you think in the comments, and I don't know, maybe someday I'll find a better 1080p webcam, or I'll have to upgrade my streaming computer again. And if I do have to upgrade it again, USB-C is a requirement, so at least I can have a better face cam. But the other thing is, lots of PCI Express lanes is also a requirement, and then you start to get into expensive computers, so yeah. But I can't use a 4K webcam on this computer because they all require USB-C, because they draw more power than standard USB ports can supply, so yeah, there's that. Anyways, we're definitely past midnight. I'd like to go to bed soon so that I can get everything done I need to do tomorrow for traveling. So with that, I am going to wish you all a great rest of your day. Take care, and God bless. Computerized Start is brought to you by my awesome patrons on Patreon, and by your tips and memberships on Ko-fi. These and other channel supporters make my live streams possible. You too can become a channel supporter with tiers starting at just $1. Don't forget to smash that like button. And if you've liked what you've seen, subscribe and turn on notifications so that you don't miss the next video or live stream. And as always, thank you for all your support. I hope to see you next time. And until then, take care.